We're just about at the end of flowering season here at the farm, which means our trees are now producing fruit. We call that fruit set. I'm about to check the fruit set on my trees, and I thought you might like to come along. Now we're out in the grove. This is the commercial side of the operation. This is where we grow the food that we sell all over the country. And a great place to start is this Black Prince variety avocado tree. It is loaded. Look at this guy. There's little clusters of baby avocados like this all around the tree, all the way up top, all the way around the whole tree. The Black Prince avocado is not very common. A lot of people don't grow it commercially. Some people grow them in their backyards. It's very high in oil content. I think it's the highest oil content avocado variety I grow. And some people love it for its high oil content. Other people hate it for its high oil content. Some people like a very rich, creamy avocado similar to the common Hass we see in the supermarket. Others prefer something a little lighter, a little more mild. Speaking of avocados with a more mild flavor profile, I present to you the Donnie. The crazy thing about the Donnie is it's my last tree to fruit, but it's the first one we pick. So if you see these couple guys here, there's a couple little avocados. Let me show you. We got a couple little avocados at the end of this stem here, and then there's some really, really tiny ones just starting at the end of the stems around the tree here. Obviously a much smaller fruit than the ones I just showed you on the Black Prince. I'll be picking these guys in 60 days. In 60 days, these will be 2 to 2.5 pounds. Those Black Princes will still be creeping along. I don't pick them until August, which is April, May, June, July, August. Those are 5 months away. And you saw how much bigger they were than these. The Donnies are like, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? And then all of a sudden they're like, here I am. And 60 days later, you're picking them. And like I said, the Donnie is on the other side of the flavor spectrum from the Black Prince. The Black Prince is high in oil content. It's rich. It has an aftertaste. The Donnie tends toward the mild. It's lighter. People who like to eat Donnies use them as an accompaniment for their meal. Think mashed potatoes or think rice. Kind of a substitute for a starch. And what I have found generally is people who like the Hass and like the Black Prince and maybe like the Brogdon or the Russell, people who like a creamy, oily avocado tend to not like the Donnie. On the other hand, people who specifically request Donnies from me, they'd take a bite out of a Black Prince and spit it right out. I'm very excited to talk about this next variety because it produces red avocados. And when I say red, I don't mean green with a reddish hue. I don't mean like, oh yeah, that kind of looks reddish in the right lighting. No, no, no. These avocados are bright freaking red. And when I saw one, I just had to have a tree. This tree is in its 3rd season in the ground, and I'm finally getting fruit from it this year. This is the first year it flowered, and it's also just starting to produce eensy beensy little fruit. Let me show you. I need my son for this job. He spots these things really good, but if you look like, let me see, right at the tip of my nose. I'm putting it right at the tip of my nose. You see that little fruit there? That's a Hialeah red variety. All of these fruit varieties have names, and they're named by either the creator or discoverer of the fruit. I showed you a Donnie, probably named after a guy named Donnie. I've got Monroe, I've got Choquette, also family names. The Hass, the little wrinkly avocado you get at the supermarket, that's named after Rudolph Hass. Then you got this guy here, the Hialeah red. How did it get its name? It turns out Julian Lara, who runs Lara Farms, which is about 3 or 4 miles north of me, was driving through the town of Hialeah one day. He looks in a yard, he sees an avocado tree full of red avocados. So he was interested. He knocked on the door, struck up a relationship. I guess it was a little old lady that owned the house. And he asked her if he could take some cuttings from that tree and try to grow his own avocado tree that produces red avocados at his nursery. And the Hialeah red was born. You see, every one of these varieties I'm showing you all started out as one unique tree that grew from seed. The Hass avocado you get at the supermarket, Rudolph Hass planted that in his front yard. The Hialeah red I just showed you, somewhere along the line, someone planted an avocado seed and it sprouted up and started to grow red avocados. And so this guy right behind me here, this is my attempt at coming up with a new variety. I planted this guy in the ground when it was a 2-year-old seedling about 7 or 8 seasons ago. So we're at about season 9, 10, maybe 11, I'm not quite sure, but we're right in the window where this guy might give his first fruit. And while I haven't seen any fruit on this guy yet, this is the first year he flowered. See those flowers there? So he's trying his hardest to produce. You see here, this flower is open. Let's see if I could show that to you. That right there is an open flower, and it is open as male, which means right now, this afternoon, bees are getting pollen from this tree and flying to other trees and pollinating them. But with avocados, if this guy is male in the afternoon, it means this morning, these flowers here would have been open as female. And you see, they're closing up. They're done for the day. Some of these might have been pollinated today. And then the females close up, and these guys, the males, start to open. Now up top, there's some more panicles. Let's go up there and see if any fruit pops so far. There's another panicle with open male flowers, but up here, I could see where there's some panicles that have kind of come to the end of the fruiting cycle, but I don't, or of the flowering cycle that is, but I don't see any fruit production just yet, which is not uncommon. A seedling tree like this, it might be 8, 10, 12 years before it ever flowers, but then even the first season or two that it flowers, it may not produce or it may not hold fruit. So fingers crossed, I'm hoping I get fruit from it this year. I'm also hoping the fruit is desirable, but if I don't, it's not outside of expectations. If I'm gonna talk about varieties that were selected for their desirability, then I have to talk about the Simmons avocado. As for flavor, the Simmons lies right in the middle between that more bland Donnie I was telling you about and the very rich Black Prince. When asked, I often say the Simmons is my favorite variety. Now, a lot of times my favorite variety changes based on what I'm eating at the time. We eat Simmons in the month of July. If you ask me in July, I'm gonna tell you Simmons is my favorite. If you ask me in August, I'm gonna tell you Brogdon is my favorite. And if you ask me in December, I'm gonna tell you Monroe is my favorite. But if you ask me in the off season, I probably float back to the Simmons. I love the Simmons. And today's like the 29th or 30th of March. We're at the end of March. So April, May, end of June. So 90 days from now, this little guy here will be between 2.5 and 3 pounds. It'll be a very light green, thin-skinned, pear-shaped, huge avocado, and it's delicious. And like I say, the flavor profile is right in the middle of bland to rich. And when I bite into a Simmons avocado, I actually get a cashew nut taste. I've heard other people describe it as a walnut taste, but to me it tastes a little more like a cashew. And the Simmons variety, if someone offers like some oil or salt and pepper, I usually say no. The Simmons is probably the one variety, maybe the Brogdon, that I will just eat plain. I love the flavor of the Simmons. Let's take a walk around this tree and I'll show you some of the fruit. So look, we got those little guys right there. We got this guy here. I mean, you go around this tree, the whole tree is gonna be like this. I just wanna be careful here. I don't want these to fall, but you see those fruit hanging there, just gorgeous. And like I say, you go around, and the tree itself is also really beautiful. We like to grow our trees round in the shape of a bush. You don't want a fruit tree to grow straight up high because you don't want your fruit up high. You want it as close to the ground as possible. And you see here the Simmons kind of like spirals laterally. It kind of grows outward, so it naturally maintains the nice bushy shape that we like. So with only 90 days left to harvest, I'm very pleased to see that my Simmons are off to a great start. Now, where the Simmons and the Donnie are my early season avocados, this Monroe variety is late season. I don't harvest these till the first week of November. And as you could see, they're still very much covered in flowers. When I went around that Simmons, there was not a single flower left on that tree. The Monroes are still producing new flowers. They're still pollinating. But if I look close enough, I'll bet you I could find a few fruit on this tree also. All right, I couldn't find any fruit on that tree, but here's another Monroe tree. And we see here, look, at the end of this branch, there's already what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fruit set right here. The Monroe is my heaviest producer. The Monroe avocados grow to about 2¼ to 2.75 pounds. I get more fruit off my Monroe varieties than any other tree. Every tree produces every year, and out of the late season varieties, the Monroe is my favorite. It also, in the flavor profile, it's like the Black Prince. It tilts toward a little bit of higher in oil content. It's got that stronger, richer avocado flavor. Now, if you're in a grove that has Monroe variety avocados, you're almost certain to stumble upon another variety called Choquette. And the reason we blend Choquettes with Monroes is because avocados have 2 flowering types. Certain varieties are flowering type A, the other varieties are flowering type B. And the type A's pollinate the B's, and the type B's pollinate the A's. So you always want to have a mix of A's and B's. The Monroe is a late season avocado. I told you we don't pick that till November. The Choquette is also a late season avocado. We don't pick those until September. So if you're in a grove that has late season avocados, very often you're going to find a mix of Monroe with Choquette to maximize pollination. And if you look really, really close, you'll see right here at the tip of my knife a teeny tiny Choquette avocado that's just starting out. This teeny tiny avocado, this is about 1/4 the size of a green pea. 5 months from now will weigh 3½ pounds. If the Monroe is my poster child for reliability, the Hall variety is my problem child. Behind me are 3 Hall variety avocado trees. This one here is loaded with fruit. This guy only has 1 piece of fruit on it that I could find. And that one over there, it didn't even flower this year. The fruit is delicious. It's one of my favorites. It leans a little more toward that higher in oil content like we talked about earlier. Leans a little bit more toward the flavor profile of the Hass. It's the smallest variety I grow. They rarely top a pound, and I find it to be a very pretty variety. Come here, I'll show you. It's a little early to tell, but the Halls take on a very exaggerated pear shape with a very narrow top that kind of comes down and then bulges out at the bottom like a pear. The last variety I'm going to talk about today is the Catalina. And here's a little itty bitty Catalina right here. And just like every year, my Catalina trees are loaded up in producing fruit. Catalina is probably the most popular avocado variety here in Miami. It was first cultivated over in Cuba, and then as people started migrating from Cuba to South Florida, they brought their Catalina trees with them, and they planted them in their yards. And if you drive around the neighborhoods in Miami and the surrounding communities, if you see an avocado in someone's backyard, it's very likely a Catalina and very likely going to produce avocados identical to this one right here. Now you know that there are lots of different types of avocados, more than just that little Hass you get at the supermarket. Now you know that some avocados produce early in the season, May and June. You know that we have mid-season avocados like this Catalina right here, July and August. And you learn that we have lates as well, Monroe, Choquette, and Hall. You learn that avocados come in different colors. The Simmons is light green, the Hall is dark green, the Hialeah red is red. You learn that they come in different sizes, from the sub 1 pound Hall to the 3 3/4 pound Choquette. And you learn they have different flavor and texture profiles depending on the oil content and other factors. And if you'd like to try some of these different varieties of avocado, go to guacfarm.com. GUACFARM.com. We sell our avocados there. We also sell our mangoes and other tropical fruit. And if you want to look really good while you're eating your avocados, get yourself a Sleepy Lizard t-shirt or a Sleepy Lizard baseball hat. Now, the sun's going down, and my wife and son told me that we're gonna watch that new Willy Wonka movie tonight that I'm really into. I wanna see it. So while I go do that, you go to guacfarm.com, and I will see you on the next video.